Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're tackling something really significant. It's complex, can be painful, but it's a conversation that needs having. Healing from mother-daughter relationships where narcissism is involved. And we're seeing this everywhere, aren't we? A huge kind of global wave of people sharing their stories, researchers digging in. It feels really timely.
It absolutely is. And, the sources we looked at suggest there's a reason it's surging now.
Oh.
Yeah, it's tied to this idea of women globally sort of waking up to who they really are. And that awakening, well, it inevitably makes you look back at those foundational relationships, especially with your mother.
Makes sense.
So our mission today is really to pull out what the sources are saying about first recognizing that trauma, and then maybe most importantly, how you start that journey of counting yourself.
Counting yourself. Let's define that right up front because it keeps coming up. What does that actually mean here?
Well, it's essentially about recognizing your own value, your own voice, your own needs, completely separate from anyone else's expectations.
Especially the mothers, in this case.
Exactly. Because, growing up with a narcissistic parent, you're often taught you only matter if you reflect well on them or serve their needs. So counting yourself means choosing your reality, validating yourself, and saying no to those old narratives defining your worth.
Okay, that refusal, that's key.
Yeah.
And that's the anchor we want you, the listener, to hold on to. Remember this. You count. You are special. You have a voice, no matter how hard family members, mom, grandma, auntie, whoever, might have tried to gaslight you into thinking you didn't.
Right. Let's unpack the mechanism behind all this. Segment 1. The foundation of falsehood. The sources consistently point to the narcissist operating from a false self. What is that exactly?
The false self is basically a constructed persona. It's often quite elaborate, built on delusion, frankly. It's needed because the narcissist's true self was likely rejected or just never fully formed, often way back in their own childhood.
And how does that false self play out in parenting? Why is that the game changer? Well, think about it. If someone is fundamentally operating from a false place, they literally cannot tell you the truth about who you are. They can only tell you who you're not, according to their distorted view.
Because their own self-view is distorted.
Precisely. If they can't handle their own reality, their own imperfections, how can they possibly affirm the authentic, independent reality of their daughter? The daughter, you see, becomes sort of an extension, an object. Her existence is only okay if it props up the mother's very fragile, false image. And that's the tragedy of it.
So the daughter isn't a person, she's a prop in the mother's script. You mentioned the sources talk about narcissistic energy or spirit. Is that like a clinical thing?
It's more the language the authors use to capture how intense and pervasive this drive is.
Okay.
They talk about the sole mission of this energy being to ensure the daughter never wakes up to her true self. It's not just a personality flaw. It feels like an active, relentless campaign to keep the daughter contained.
And the tactics. How do they maintain that false reality for the daughter? We see lies mentioned constantly.
Exactly. Deeply damaging lies. They actively build a false image of the daughter, specifically designed to keep her feeling small, dependent.
Like what kind of things?
Oh, the constant drumbeat of, you're nothing, you'll never make it on your own, you can't go anywhere, you'll fail, nobody will love you. These aren't just random insults, they're building blocks for her whole sense of self, designed to match the mother's need for control.
Wow. Okay, that leads right into segment 2. The mother's mask. This sounds directly connected to that false self. The sources get specific about the mother's image management applying a mask just like her cosmetics.
Yeah, and what's really striking is the effort involved. It's not casual.
Yeah.
The sources say this mask has to be put on methodically, it has to be polished, snatched, perfect. It absolutely cannot crack or slip. That's why you often see such a huge difference between the public persona and the private reality.
That need for constant perfection must create incredible pressure internally. If the mask is that good, how can a daughter learn to see the cracks, especially if she's been told her whole life the mask is real?
Well, the cracks often show up in the projection, and the hypocrisy.
How so?
Because the mother lives in this made-up world of her own perfection. She demands that same impossible flawlessness from everyone around her, especially the daughter. She wants her whole world to look perfect.
Ah, okay.
So the daughter sees the rigidity, she feels the lack of real warmth, the high stakes if anything goes wrong, even small things. And crucially, she starts to maybe sense that the mother's stories, her narratives about life and about the daughter herself, they just don't quite match reality. They only seem to suit the mother.
And they hurt everyone else.
Especially the daughter, yeah. Because the mother needs the daughter to be successful enough to reflect well, but not too successful, not independent enough to leave or challenge the narrative. It's a total double bind.
And the result of that bind is the daughter develops this complex, just trying constantly to please someone who can't actually be pleased. What does that look like later in life? Does it lead to that self-belittling we talked about?
Oh, absolutely. The sources describe it clearly. Patterns of self-sabotage in adulthood, intense perfectionism, crippling anxiety, really poor boundaries. The daughter's basically still trying to live up to the mother's fake narrative, unconsciously seeking approval based on a standard that was never real. So yeah, she ends up constantly minimizing her own achievements because nothing was ever quite enough to win that impossible game.
Which brings us neatly to segment 3, the game changer, self-reclamation. If her world was built on the mother's falsehoods, the healing has to start with finding her own solid ground, right? Recognizing your own reality.
That's it. That realization is everything, is the turning point. And you often need concrete proof to fight back against all those years of gaslighting.
Proof like what?
Like looking objectively at what you have done, what you've achieved, what you've overcome, how far you've actually come despite it all. Your resilience, your skills, your healthy relationships. Outside that dynamic, that's the evidence against the lies that you were nothing or would fail.
And in that moment,
Yeah.
realizing the narcissist operates from a false self.
Yeah.
That should be the game changer, as the sources put it.
Exactly. Because think logically. If their whole way of being is based on a fabrication, then their judgment of you is also, well, it's worthless. It's built on lies.
Cold to no water.
None. They can't even tell themselves the truth. How can their criticism of you mean anything? Now, for many people, really internalizing this takes, well, it can take drastic steps. The sources mentioned some people literally have to start all over again.
Starting over, that sounds huge. Like unlearning everything. If you were taught you were nothing, what are the steps to build yourself back up?
It's about internal work, fundamentally. Going inside and discovering, maybe for the first time, that you are much more than what a narcissist told you were.
And practical.
Practically, it means learning self-validation. Actively stopping that inner critic that just repeats the mother's lines. It means consciously choosing to count yourself in decisions, big and small. Prioritizing your real needs, holding your boundaries, using your voice even when it feels scary.
It's shifting from looking outside for approval
Which is what the mother trained you to do.
to finding it inside.
Yes, that shift to an internal sense of worth, an internal locus of control, that's the core of real, lasting healing, according to everything we read.
Okay, but making that shift, dealing with the fallout, that must be incredibly draining. Which brings us to segment 4, self-care and well-being. The constant drama, the fights, the manipulation, it takes a massive toll, doesn't it? Heart, mind, body, spirit.
It's profoundly exhausting, an energy suck. And that's precisely why the sources hammer this point. Taking care of yourself, maintaining a healthy lifestyle, isn't some kind of optional luxury here. It's essential. It's a defense mechanism.
A defense mechanism.
Yeah. You need to be in tip-top shape, physically and mentally, just to navigate the relationship drama, hold those boundaries you've built, and make clear-headed decisions instead of getting sucked back in.
So if the main tactic is emotional chaos,
then your best defense is emotional stability. And physical health is a huge part of that foundation.
how direct is that link? The sources mentioned food is mood.
It's very direct. That phrase captures it perfectly. Eating well, getting enough sleep, managing stress, these things actively fight the physical and mental wear and tear of chronic emotional abuse. When you feel physically stronger and healthier, you naturally feel more positive, more resilient. You're less likely to get thrown off balance by the narcissist's attempts to provoke you.
So you need that clarity.
You need maximum clarity to see the manipulation coming, Before you get hooked into another pointless argument, if you're run down because you haven't taken care of yourself, you just don't have the mental energy to hold the line, to enforce those boundaries you worked so hard to set up in segment 3.
So self-care isn't indulgence.
In this context, it's psychological armor. It's strategic defense.
That's a powerful reframe, making sure you have the strength and clarity to protect yourself from that relentless emotional drain.
Exactly. And ultimately, the power to heal, to really reclaim who you are, it starts inside. With realizing you have a voice, you have an identity, and that's true no matter what anyone else says or does. That inner strength, that's the only shield that truly lasts.
Which leads us perfectly to our final thought for you, the listener. If we've learned anything today, it's that the narcissist's core mission, conscious or not, is to keep you from waking up to who you really are. So maybe the most powerful act of rebellion is self-celebration. We saw sources mentioning that women who come through this are often incredible mentors, amazing big sisters, or the kind of moms to others they never had themselves. They learn exactly what not to do, and they excel at providing genuine support.
So knowing this, knowing that your authentic, strong self is already there, already thriving in other parts of your life, what's one simple, healthy decision you can make today, right now, to consciously celebrate the person you truly are?
Maybe specifically celebrating that supportive, resilient part of yourself. The part that emerged not just in spite of the obstacles, but maybe even strengthened by overcoming them. Take a moment today. Acknowledge that inherent strength. It's real and it counts.